first level. The second, and which is also very brutal, which we recently got through the report by Reuters, is the Oromia government in general, and it is security apparatus, which it could be the Oromia police, special police, the Oromia militia, the Gachasina is a system which was recently established also to protect and to guard the regime, and the foreign again, which is a killing squad that targets any person that they think is opposing the regime. And the Amhara militia and the Fano are also another very brutal actors. And there is the fourth level in different parts of Oromia, which is some reports came out indicating that there is a fake OLA, which is affiliated to the government, which was even produced and established by the government, and they have also been causing such atrocities to the people. But my topic was a bit about peace building initiatives, but I say the path to the peace in Oromia has been over the last 50 or so years very rough, and this is because the Oromo struggle for self-determination encounters violence response from the regime, from the Ethiopian states, successive state regimes, and because of ideological difference, Oromo's aspiration for equality confronts the imperial hegemony from the state side. There is also a religious and the cultural, not necessarily difference, but Oromo's aspiration to religious freedom, cultural freedom versus the idea that the state, when I know the Ethiopian state, it is the state that has been imperial state, which wants to impose one group's religion or culture. Economically, Oromia's economic strategy also, and the demand from the other side to control and monopolize the resources. Governance, which we recently see, even including Abiy Ahmed's aspiration to impose unitary system versus the Oromo's aspiration for at least multinational federalism, which respects the right to self-rule. So these are the struggle then could be seen broadly as a struggle that is aimed at dismantling imperial imaginations and structures, but that is also why it has been very rough, lengthy, and sometimes violent in terms of the response. But despite this all, Oromo contributed to at least political changes, different political changes in Ethiopia. We know what different episodes in history, the 1974 revolution, how the Oromo actors in a way, Oromo students during the Ethiopian student movement and the political organizations contributed to that. The 1991, at least the coming to being of the multinational federalism was through the contribution of the OLF, the Oromo Liberation Front, and we clearly know also that 2014 to 2018, the Oromo protests, which at least overthrew the EPRDF, but finally it was hijacked by Abiy and his group. And the question is, why is it so long? Why is it so lengthy, violent, and so rough? I want to kind of mention, which many of us haven't discussed much, but I want to underline 4 points, but focus on 2. The first one is Ethiopia is a dependent colonial state. We know it survives only through violence. Imperial colonial states, violence is the characteristic of such states. That's clear. Oromia's economic and strategic significance also makes many actors to compete over Oromia's resources. That is also why the peace in Oromia would not be so easy because there are many actors contesting over it. But there are two points which are recently, particularly in the post-2018, very relevant. The subjectification of Oromo elites, the cooptation of Oromo activists, social media influencers, political elites into the state, and also the Abiy syndrome, which also we know that many people are saying, okay, it is our government. So when we talk about the subjectification, to go into the theory, I will not go much into that aspect, but Abiy Ahmed and actually the Prosperity Party used different strategies to co-opt many influential individuals like prominent activists or social media influencers, even political party leaders into the system so that they could be either indifferent to what is happening, the brutalities of the regime, or at least they would also support it. That is what we see. They became business individuals, business entrepreneurs. They just live in a bubble in Filipino, and they don't really know or they don't care about what is happening in other parts of Oromia. While I'm presenting this, I think there are many of you might have someone's or some individuals who come to your mind about those who became the political subjects of the regime. And the effect of this has actually that many of the followers became indifferent. They became also passive wherever they are, whether in Oromia or abroad, because they wait until their Messiah would come again, say, and then mobilize them for a protest or for anything related to political mobilization. And we know about the Abiy syndrome. Many people, even in the diaspora, the kind of former critical individuals start saying, okay, now there is the Hamara fighting against the federal government, and if Abiy is overthrown, then that will be the end for Oromia, for the Oromo. And then this is a kind of a strategy of creating fear within the Oromo, and then mobilizing people to support the regime, despite the fact that Abiy has never been an Oromo leader in terms of working for Oromo interests at all. He himself didn't claim that, but many claim that he is our government, he is our leader, and we should protect that. And the consequence has been the division within Oromo circles, that even on the path forward, how to continue with the struggle became also much divided. Many things could be said about the way forward or what could be done, but in any peace initiatives, there are different stakeholders that could take part. I just mentioned the government should also rethink and reconsider its brutality, because from history we learn that violence doesn't really sustain and consolidate power unless for a shorter period of time. Opposing political parties, armed movement groups.
Dr. Hassani, you have got a few minutes. Just one more minute.
Okay, I'm finishing. So these different actors should or can contribute in the peace building initiatives. But as a last remark, I would say, if it continues this way, the way it is now, the crisis in Oromia will lead to unbearable economic, political, and social unrest in the country, and also in the Horn of Africa at large. And that is why the call for peace should be loudly heard from different parts of, from different corners. And I think this is also what we are doing now. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Dr. Nasabe. A wonderful insight of what's going on in terms of peace building and the challenge. Our next speaker will be Professor Muhammad Hassan. I believe there is no one who doesn't know who he is, but I would ask him to introduce himself just in a couple of sentences when he starts. His speech is going to be on the role of external actors. General.
Thank you, Dr. Tesfaye. I prepared my short note in English. And I think if I'm I was asked to make presentation on the role of foreign actors. Honest to God, I don't know anything about it. Just recently started reading, and what I am going to do is divide what I am going to say into three different sections. The first one is the role from my limited understanding. The second one is my brief remark about my observation during oral and government negotiation. It's just simple observation. The final one is really my concern about silence of the Oromo diaspora, about the tragedies that are really taking place in Oromia, especially in Oromia special zone in Wallo area. And let me start with the first one. I have already said I have really not done any serious research on this topic. I just started reading, and what I have looked at, let me focus on just a few points. First, the role of external actors are very common in conflict-ridden areas of the world, especially in Africa. Foreign actors or external actors have the support of their own governments. As we all know, every government has its own national interest. In other words, foreign actors, external actors play a double role. They try to mediate between two conflicting parties. Generally, they present themselves from my limited reading to be neutral, while directly or indirectly trying to protect the interests of their own countries, government rather. Foreign external actors or mediators generally suggest to the conflicting parties to start their discussion with the easiest issues and gradually moving to more complex ones, which is logical, really. For external actors, listen to contested issues by both sides seriously. Whenever there is an impasse in the discussion, the external actors urge both sides to take a break, from the discussion. When conflicting parties meet again, foreign actors suggest a new approach that may encourage the two parties to continue with the discussion in a new spirit of give and take. The whole purpose of discussion between two conflicting parties is to reach a compromise that is acceptable to both parties. However, in a political environment like Ethiopia, where compromise is always regarded as weakness, it's difficult to see if any compromise can be implemented in that country. The political culture of that country is based on really crushing what every regime considers as its enemies, destroying enemies, basically. Very, very violent political culture. What is more, in the world of real politics, which is the politics of self-interest, where might makes right. Sometimes foreign actors really cause the disastrous outcome for weaker parties. Let me just give what happened to our people, to the OLF in 1992. Remember the circumstance about the 1990 change of government in 1991, and then in 1992 there was a plan for an election, and by March 1992 the TPLF leaders clearly realized they will not be able to win election in Oromia, and they really started putting roadblocks, harassing, closing OLF offices. They closed over 200 OLF offices. Actually, they started killing their cadres and leaders, and ultimately the OLF, of course, boycotted that election, as you all remember. And the most important, foreign actors, especially the U.S. ambassador through Cohen, who was in charge of the African affairs at the State Department at that time, and then Isaias, both of them, and behind them, European Union, they really put great deal of pressure on the OLF leaders to encamp their fighters into barracks, making the task of EPLF and TPLF soldiers destruction of the OLF forces. That was the tragedy that really took place about 20 years ago when Major Leka participated in our conference. And after reading and reviewing his book, I asked him one simple question. I said, why on earth did the OLF leaders agree to encamp their fighters? And what Major told me is really very telling. They said, the Americans promised us, Isaias promised us that they will protect us. And the interests of the weaker parties are never protected. It is always the stronger parties, and it is always important to keep that aspect in mind. My second point is my brief observation during the peace talks between Ethiopian government delegation and OLA delegation in Zanzibar in late April and early May. The talks that began on April 24 were mediated by two ambassadors of Kenya and Norway, and it was under the direction of IGAD. And who controls IGAD, we all know about that aspect. The two ambassadors, this is my genuine observation, they really appeared to me to be neutral. They tried to be neutral in issues that were complex on both sides. The government, the delegation, to my surprise, they were very friendly towards OLA delegation. And we also did the same thing. OLA delegation also did the same thing. During the 8 days discussion, I recall just only one minor flare-up of emotion for a few minutes. And the mediators intervened, and after lunch break, the discussion continued in good spirit. And then on May 3rd, the Ethiopian delegation suddenly said goodbye to the OLA delegation, and they left for the country. It was rumored that the Prime Minister ordered his delegation to return home immediately, which simply clearly really indicates the whole show is run by a single man, and with the order of a single man, everything will be dismantled. My final comment deals with the Oromo diaspora. In 1992, the Oromo diaspora was not as organized as large as it is today, but still in 2024, the Oromo diaspora did not and do not have influential friends in positions of power among Western governments and the Western media. That is why the unbelievable crisis that is taking place, the displacement, the death and the destruction that takes place in Oromia is readily reported outside. We don't have to blame others. We have not done, especially the Oromo diaspora have really not done our homework. Other diasporas have done their homework. Oromo diaspora who were understood are divided among themselves do not have the numerical strength and the financial wherewithal necessary for capturing the attention of either the governments or the media. Consequently, the endless sufferings of the Oromo have received not much international attention, even less scholarly discussion. The apparent Western indifferences to misery of the Oromo in Ethiopia and other people of Ethiopia, both under previous EPRDF government authorities and the current PP regime, allowed them to continue with their endless killings of innocent people with impunity and the displacement of huge number of people in Oromia and other parts of Ethiopia. Today, there are over 6 million displaced people in Ethiopia. If we may recall, in 2017 alone, 1,200,000 Oromo nationals were forcibly driven from Somali regional state. During that brutal displacement, around 10,000 Oromos lost their lives. This was the parliamentary report under Prime Minister Haile Mariam. What truly shocked me and surprised me recently was that recently a top Opinion official, it is said a top Opinion official, secretly encouraged Abdile, the then president of Somalia regional state, to mercilessly drive out Oromo residents of Somalia regional state. The purpose was, remember, the driving of the Oromo from Somalia regional state was started by TPLF general. We know even their names. But one top Opinion official simply encouraged Abdile secretly, totally secretly. The reason because they wanted to push out the TPLF leaders from position of power at the expense, at the cost of the Oromos who were living in Somalia. It was really a tragedy that took place in 2017. What shocked me more than anything else is that only last week, a businessman who was detained in 2018, he was released from prison, from honorable prison actually, just last week, which means there is absolutely no immunity or no accountability in Ethiopia. If Abdile was brought to court, trust me, Abdile will expose all those who were involved in the criminal enterprise of displacing 1,200,000 people. So they let him come out. And probably who knows what will happen to him. Anyway, the current PDP regime has displaced huge number of population in Oromia, thanks to several human rights organizations, especially Oromia Support Group. And I would really like to thank Trevor Truman, who is among us, for his really incredibly courageous effort, doing what huge number of us are not able to do single-handedly. And Trevor, please keep on being the light at least trying your best to shine light on this tragedy in the making. Several other organizations, such as, of course, Human Rights Watch Africa, from time to time, Amnesty International, sometimes even publishing anti-Oromo propaganda itself, which is really telling how others who wanted to undermine us are active almost everywhere. And the recent Reuters report about Korea and Agenda definitely has exposed the regime for what it is, really a killing machine. It may surprise you, in 2019, when I was in the country for about 5 weeks, I heard secretly while in Dredawa from absolutely a reliable source, there was a killing squad that was established in the city of Dredawa in 2019. And the picture was everywhere. Foreign Agenda started functioning not recently. It was established in 2018. It was exposed only recently. Finally, in Ethiopia, governments have changed, leaders have changed. In the last 6 years, the PP regime has broken records of all the previous Ethiopia rulers from Menelik up to the last EPRDF, the government, in terms of killing, burning people with their houses, destruction of huge number of resources. What truly now alarms, it should alarm all of us, is what is happening in Oromia special zone in the Amara region. People who are encircled. Basically, the regime wanted them to starve to death. They can't move. There is no way of moving anywhere, and there is constant war against them. The goal is really simply dismantling, I think, that area. And I think we all have moral responsibility, national duty to be the voice of voiceless people of Oromia special zone, and then we have to support them by all means necessary, especially in terms of making donation. It may be $10, it may be $50. If you are generous, $100. The Majat Ulama Association is raising funds for the victims. The Oromo Liberation Army is raising funds. There are a number of organizations that are raising.
1 minute, Professor.
I am done. I am actually done. Please try your best, and if people are interested, I will forward to Jalalan, brother Jalalan, to share with you the Majat Ulama GoFundMe for in the name of the people who are really daily dying of hunger, of bullets, everything. One final point, the fake Ola about which Dr. Asabe mentioned. Fake Ola, I was told by a reliable person, most reliable person, they trained, the PT trained 5,000 fake Ola at some.
We have a question. You have a question.
Can you mute yourself, please?
Mohammed Ali, do you have the
Let me finish, I'm done. Fake Ola was trained by the regime at St. Ellen, altogether about 5,000, and they were meant for not only killing Olas, but also killing population, destroying, and for the purpose of creating a Nazi image for Ola. And it is the government that is doing all these things. Dr. Tasfaye, thank you very much. I am done.
Oh, thank you, Professor. Thank you so much for the insight. Just to keep in time, let's move to the next presentation. The next presentation will be by Mr. Abdi, whom we all know very well. Since I don't have his bio, I hope he will say a couple of things about himself. And he is going to enlighten us with some prospects and roadmap to peace. Mr. The floor is yours. Here we are, Mr. Ta. Hello? Hello?
Dr. Tesfaye Budan wanjiran fakkaatu sila ga'uturan mammaatti.
Okay.
Fi gaaffiif deebiitti yoo dabareen uummata fayyaa gidduutti dhufannoo carraan.
Correct. Just for those who do not speak Oromo, let me start by putting a few questions. Now, one question each to each of our presenters who have done such a great job in enlightening us this morning. My first question, this is just to open the discussion, my friend, not the discussion, but in general, to make us more understand what they have been saying. So my first question goes to Dr. Trevor. Dr. Trevor brought to us facts that are supported by data. He is not just any presenter who brings forward his own opinion. So from what he presented, there is a green picture painted about the peace challenge in Oromia. In fact, there are three forces: the Ethiopian federal government force, the Oromo regional state force, and the Mara nationalists are all attacking Oromos. How can there be a peace under such situation? How can peace be built in Oromia, where the whole state is violent? That's one question. My question for Dr. Asebe is, as I said, Ethiopia is a violent state. Can there be peace in Oromia if there is no peace in Ethiopia? What are the alternatives for Oromia, in your opinion? For Professor Mohammed, external actors all have similar stance on Oromo issues. How can we get these actors understand what is not negotiable for Oromos in terms of self-determination? It's just in the order of presentation. Dr. Trevor, can you start? The rest of you, please, can you put down your questions in the chat?
I'm sorry, Tesfaye. I've just been trying to phone Taha, and I was not listening. I've just managed to contact him, and he will be joining us in 15 minutes.
Okay, that's fine.
Could you repeat the question for me? I'm sorry, I was involved with speaking to Taha.
Okay. What I was saying is that what your presentation is based on facts and truth supported by data. It's not any feeling what someone, a presenter, is giving. So, but the whole thing is that the whole picture is very green. Ethiopia is completely violent. As you stated, it is failed state now, or in the process of completely failing. And since the federal government force, the regional government force, and the Amara nationalists are all attacking Oromos in Oromia and elsewhere, how can there be peaceful living for Oromos in Ethiopia? That's the question for you.
Okay. From two areas. One, the international community is beginning to wake up. They're beginning to hear us, and they're beginning to see things from the Oromo point of view. It's early stages, but I think every hope that people are seeing through the lies of the Amhara Association of America and Abiy Ahmed. And so it won't be long before the Oromo support. And two, within the country, the strength of the Oromo is underestimated by Abiy Ahmed. The Oromo Liberation Army is growing, and it will succeed using the means that it has, even without international support. So I think there's every reason to be optimistic. You cannot suppress a people with the population the size of Canada or Ukraine. It will not continue as it has been doing. As Nagasa Kumsa once said, the Oromo movement is like a huge cooking pot. It will take a long, long time to get boiling, but once it's boiling, there'll be no stopping it. And it's now boiling. We are on the way to success. And Kara Bilisuma Jira, if I've said that right.
Yeah. Thank you, Trevor. I hope people will ask some follow-up questions on this. And Dr. Asabe, did you understand my question?
Yeah, I know the question, but it's a very difficult question. I mean, not difficult in a sense, it is the root of the problem, the root of the violence that we are experiencing, the root of the crisis that the Oromo have been experiencing for the last a century and a half, not really about the last 6 years. So it is about the Ethiopian state. It goes into the history how the Ethiopian empire was established. And you mentioned like a kind of either or, but it is not about whether peace in Ethiopia would solve the question of peace in Oromia, but the situation is the contradictory relationship between Oromia and Ethiopia is the root of the problem. That means I would not put a politician's answer in this, but kind of a researcher's answer. I mean, people would say, which one is the solution? Independent Oromia, or there was one question which had come later on, but is it the solution independent Oromia or the other way around? Mine is, I also mentioned in my presentation, since it is imperial and a colonial state, dismantling the imperial imaginations, the way the relationship is built, and the hegemonic discourse about one superior group, culture, language, and the way of living, and the others which are marginalized, and also dismantling the structures, the imperial structures, is the solution for any society that fail under colonization. What does it take? It could take different forms. One attempt was the 1991 or the 1990s multinational federalism, which was thought as alternative pathway. The other alternative pathway could be independence, That is what politicians who are directly engaged in the field would decide. But dismantling this imperial relationship and the contradiction is the solution in any way, anywhere. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor. Professor Mohammed.
Yeah, I was muted, Dr. Spy. If I correctly understood, if I did not understand your question, please you will repeat for me. And if I make sense of the question, it is how can we make external actors understand that there are Oromo issues that are non-negotiable? Is that okay?
What I'm thinking asking is, do all external actors have similar stance on Oromo issues? Are there, some of them are obstructionists, some would be helpful? And my question is, how can we make those ones who do not see inspiration for self-determination see the way we see it?
Dr. Tesfaye, external actors are huge. There are over 100,000 people who are involved from my limited reading, who are involved in this kind of activities. What concerns us are those who deal with Ethiopia, and some of them really understand the Oromo situation. Everything depends on the power you have. Especially in Ethiopia, if you don't have power, you will be destroyed. I hope that will not be the fate of all the people of that country. At least in 1992, the U.S. and above all Isaias, they abandoned not only the OLF but the Oromo people, and our people paid a terrible price. And I cannot talk about other areas. I briefly talked about my experience, and during the negotiation in Zanzibar, the external actors really seems they appeared to me. This is my view. Appeared to me they really understand the complexities of the situation, the unbelievable situation in which the Oromo people find themselves. One of the reasons is the very point you raised. I didn't want to go to mention anything about it. One of the reasons why at least the Zanzibar negotiation collapsed is Abiy did not like the way it was going, and he immediately, suddenly, without any warning, called the delegation back, and the meeting ended there. And the same thing, I can't talk about Dar es Salaam. I suspect it may have been similar thing that happened there when they saw the stand all our delegation took. They could not swallow. Remember, I have said in a very simplistic terms that concept of compromising absolutely unacceptable to leaders who lead that country. Remember, the political culture is British. They used to call it during the time of Menelik, civilizing. Civilizing is attacking, defeating. It's the first time, these are the words I thought actually. This is a quotation from this Albion. If people are not crushed during the first attack, they have to be re-civilized, meaning devastated, utterly devastated. That political culture has never changed. this and that was a foreigner who lived there, who saw the tragedies of our people and recorded this aspect. And trust me, I am not exaggerating. The Ethiopian political culture of crush every opposition has absolutely not changed. And it is, in fact, at its worst under Abiy Ahmed, because he wants two things, really very simple. He wants his a dictatorship, absolute dictatorship. He has established that already. He wanted to dismantle the existing federal system, restoring the imperial system that Asabe mentioned earlier. My friend, they have already prepared a map dividing Oromia into clusters. It is only all our resistance that had prevented Abiy Ahmed from actually announcing about the dissolution of Oromia, dividing Oromia into 8 or 10 clusters. I first heard the word cluster in connection with Oromia in 2005, during the conference in London. It was Brahanu Nanga in a conference for a question I raised. Remember 2005, the Ethiopian election? After the election, in Egypt, for which Brahanu Nanga was one, they claimed they have won the election, they are going to form the next government. The story is long. Let me simply say, I asked Brahanu 2 questions. One is not relevant. The second one is, I said, Brahanu, if by miracle it comes to power, what are you going to do with Oromia? And he said, in the presence of 20 individuals, including myself, he said, Oromia is meaningless. We divide it into clusters. That was the first time I heard about it. And remember, Abiy and Brahanu Nagga work hand in gloves. Brahanu Nagga is using Abiy for destroying Oromia, basically. And if Abiy wants that purpose, and trust me, unless we struggle strongly, unless our people really rise up, the dismantling of Oromia is only a matter of time. It's only Ola that has so far prevented that from becoming the reality. I'm sorry, I took much time.
Yeah, no, just to try override the meeting.
Yeah,
Just
I get it. Yeah. Mr. Ta, thank you for coming. Now we are welcoming him to speak to us regarding the prospect and roadmap to peace. Without further ado, can you, Mr. Ta, start your presentation? Please do give a couple of sentences in introducing yourself. Many of us, of course, we know you. In case there are a couple of people who didn't know who you are, thank you very much. And Mr. The floor is yours.
Thank you for inviting me to be part of this discussion. I can only say I'm a founder member of the OLF, and I've been trying to serve our people all my life. That said, I just want to say today I am speaking not on behalf of any organizational group, but just for myself. I try to be brief because from what I heard about this conference, a lot have already been covered, points I could have referred to. And as part of my introduction, please accept my apologies. There was some technical glitch and time change which confused me. And I was delayed in coming to the meeting. Now, about my presentation, I'll be brief. I'll try to be brief and leave time for discussion about prospects for peace. There is no a clear path formula for peaceful resolution of the conflict, as you all know. So I'll just make broad remarks about the situation we are in and what needs to be done. First, about the root of the problem. The root cause of the problem, to me, is failure to implement the constitutional arrangements achieved in 1991 and then instituted in the TPLF-sponsored Constitution of 1995. That is a big landmark in Ethiopia's history. Somebody, I think it's Christopher Klafam, who described 1991 in the Ethiopian context as year zero. I subscribe to that. It is like year zero. It is a culmination of long struggle for freedom, democracy, and basic human and political rights by Oromo and several other people. It was a success, a triumph of liberation forces over the forces of the empire, of operation forces of empire. So it was a year zero. A new project was launched. We can call it definitely, as Christopher Kravan said, year zero, because it gave the peoples of Ethiopia a new chance, a new beginning to sort out their lives. I can put it in a one sentence or two to simplify the whole thing. What was agreed is, of course, the imperial force were defeated politically, militarily, but the cultural aspects, the bureaucratic aspects remain, but basically, the ideological setup also remained, but politically and militarily, the empire was defeated, the imperial force were defeated, and in a few sentences, what was agreed is, for the peoples of Ethiopia, peoples of the empire, to govern their own affairs and participate in a union government, federal government, on the basis of equality and fairness. Very simple, straightforward. And then to institute rights, democracy, rule of law, and the rest of the rights enjoyed by the free world. It was refusal, objection, resistance to implementing these basic agreements that made armed and political resistance to continue. And without going into details, we arrive again at another juncture, another milestone in that country's history. The long struggle led to the situation of 2018. A new chance was created, a new opportunity for renewal, for resumption of the radical changes, constructive changes started in 1991, 95. Again, a sinister force, the forces of the empire, which is resistance to change, resistance to new ideas, came to the fore and frustrated the march forward to implement the federal structure, the constitutional structure. So the root cause of the problem is failure to implement the constitutional order, and the struggle continues to this day. And of course, the rest is clear to everybody. War started in Oromia under the new system since 2018. It starts in Oromia and spread to the north. Now it has engulfed even more regions. The Amhara also are up in arms against their own regime, the regime they told. The elite, I mean, not the people as a whole. The elite thought the process of implementation of the constitution would be reversed, but when that failed to materialize, they turned against the regime they were supporting. And now war in Amara, a state of no peace in Tigray, war in Oromia, of course. We are in a very desperate situation. And how do we think we can come out of this? That is the difficult question. I think the E0, the 1991 project, should be put back on track. To do that, we have a job to do. All the democratic forces, all the federalist forces have a job to do. We cannot just sit and dream about peaceful resolution. As Daniel Defoe repeatedly says, peace is a dream of the wise, but war is the history of the world. It is very true for Ethiopia also, more true than in many other societies. So we cannot just talk of peaceful resolution or dream about peace. Peace comes with a time, particularly in the situation of our country. I think there is no other choice other than getting behind the forces in the forefront to fight against this sinister imperial restorationist force. Those who reject the process of E0 of 1991 project of renewal of hope. So there is a lot of course, opposition, but the Oromo component of the resistance in the current situation has a job to do, I think. I will focus on them for a bit and raise some broad ideas, some broad ideas for discussion later. The Oromo component of the resistance now has duty, first and foremost, to tidy up their own houses. Individually, they have to revamp their organizations, come up with clear policies in each area of activity of government at Oromia level and at federal level. They need to come up with policy matters and assign capable cadres to implement those policies. We know many of the activists are locked up, those who chose to go the peaceful way to struggle, to conduct peaceful struggle, are in a very dire situation. But all the same, all Oromo organizations in the resistance should come up with a clear policy alternatives to the current regime, and to build on the successes so far, and assign capable cadres to carry out those policies. That is proposal number one. It is the first step towards resolving the complicated situations we are in. Second, they have duty, the Oromo component of the resistance have duty to build broad alliance with forces who want to uphold, who are committed to uphold that year zero project of renewal of constitutional order of freedom, of self-determination, and joint project for our peoples. Because basically there is no enmity between the peoples. It is a system that oppresses all, still oppressing all, that wants to reverse all the gains of nearly a century, particularly for the Oromo. So, first, tidy up our own house, and second, build alliance, a broad alliance with similarly committed groups. So, first, a common platform for the Oromo, then a broader coalition with similarly committed, similarly minded, progressive forces who want to carry the democratic process forward. And my suggestion is next point is to just hint at tasks that need to be accomplished. The joint coalition, the broader coalition that the Oromo component of the resistance should carry out, will have a job to do, a big job to do. One is to draw up a program of action, really, to coordinate among themselves, to put the constitutional order back on track. They need to plan a provisional kind of process, kind of administration, which will supervise programs like ceasefire, programs like demobilization, disarmament and rehabilitation of all combatants, proper ceasefire, of course, programs, ideas about time for this process to be accomplished, revamping, for instance, the electoral system with the help of international expertise, and preparing the ground for fair and free elections. So people will have, our own people and the rest of the peoples will have really elected representatives taking charge the provisional arrangements to be sorted out by the broader coalition I'm mentioning will also consider the role of the current lords in power. They will also sort out the transitional justice, because crimes against humanity, crimes of war have been committed, still being committed. This broad coalition will have, of course, to abide by international law, not only the laws of the country, not only the constitution, but international law also, international law and customs. These are the broad areas of concern, really, starting with the Oromo forces tidying up their own houses, building a common platform to work together, and working with others. Of course, this cannot be achieved without full support by all those who can help. I think there is time to talk. There is time to act. All activists back home and in the diaspora, the whole population should get behind those forces who are in the forefront carrying out the struggle, whether it is in the city, committed to contest, to carry out struggle through the electoral process, or those who are up in armed struggle. We should all get behind them and give them full support. It's not enough to dream about peace. It will not come easily. Peaceful resolution, as other speakers have made it clear, the regime in power talks about talks, peace process, peaceful resolution for PR, for only temporary ends. They are not serious about it. This must be clear to everybody. And so people should not be fooled. We should not waste our time hoping, dreaming that peace will come. Peace comes with a tag, with a price tag. We have been paying as Oromo and as different peoples in that country, oppressed peoples, a big price. Our struggles have created a situation for us to build on Year Zero projects, the idea of freedom for each individual people, and living together in peace, building democracy, and common future is a dream worth struggling for. And that project should be resurrected, reinforced, and carried forward. And probably I should stop here to leave time for the discussion session to build on these broad suggestions. It's not a finalized peace formula, but those are the points I want to forward for discussion today. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my views.
Oh, baik sih kalau tu buta wisdom nu arti Stevie gorsa nula TV wanta ratasa muba i chichima kaste jirta saganta ke kasata nu mari ratti namoni kasani ya ratti daddabanani wanta to niraji wal hubachiisuudhaafi akka dandeenyu ta'a. Kanaaf sagantaa keenya tattaanutti darbuudhaa fi discussion kan gochuudhaa fi kan nu geggeessu obbo Zalaalemii namoota wanta konferensii kana deemsisan keessaati mata dureedha. Waan baay'eedhaan karaa ITs haa ta'u karaa organizeeshinii adda addaa cimee kan nu cimsaa jiru waan nama ta'edha. Without any delay, obbo Zalaalem sitti dabarseera.
Fayyatanii Dr. Tasfaayee daqiiqaa 11 kan turtanii warra paanalee kee keessa turanii isaaniin gaaffiif deebii fi amma 150 qabdu turtan keessan deebi'ee fudhachuu barbaadanii waan goona kanaachi fuudhan danda'a.
Haarettis immoo gaaffii lamaan tokko hafuudhaan kan namarraati. Oke, namoonni gaaffii qabdanii warra warraan dhiyeessan affanuutii fi meeshaa gabaabsaa fi gaaffii lamaan tokko dhiyeessadha.
Kuni beenya na hayyamama.
Si hayyama.
Okay, galatoma. I would raise more question on this here. I'm public student or a professional. In my understanding, violence is like a contagious disease that is transmitted from one to the other. We know what happened around the experience of the Oromo people. So they perpetuated crime. And those who perpetuated that crime, now they are romanticized. You hear
the speaker. In the Soviet, oh,
Amoya. Okay. Marlin, what I'm trying to say is from public health perspective, violence is contagious. It is contagious and it's also be predictable. We can predict understanding the past. So from the experience of the Oromo people, those who committed crime, like Menelik, like Yohannes, they are romanticized by the current regime and many of the Fano groups. So the question I'm asking, the leaders who are, I'm referring to Dr. Abidja regime, they talk about peace, but they don't want to acknowledge the crime of the past. If they are not recognizing the crime of the past, if they are still romanticizing the kings and the chiefs who have committed crimes, what can we expect from them? And so, linking to that, for example, in terms of how much they were being propagating hatred towards the Oromo people, if you carefully listen to what they say on their media, public media I'm referring to, for example, during the Recha time, they were referring to the Oromos as Ba'et Amulko Takataj. They are referring to the Oromos as Ba'et, foreigners. Okay, that was a key issue that we never talked, and they are not in a position to understand. They are not in a position to think differently because they have been romanticizing the leaders who have committed the crimes. So the question for you is, how can we address the core issue? They are romanticizing it. They were never being questioned historically. They never been questioned legally. Okay, so then how can we make any difference at all? That's a question I'm asking for all.
Is there anybody to
Well, I've been raising my hand, if you noticed.
Okay. Poi gaaffii isa gaafatan deebisnee itti aanta.
Yeah.
Okay. Gaaffii amma gaafatamneetii fi deebii namni deebisuu danda'u jira.
Okay, let me try.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the question is fundamental. I mean, people think peace, definitely the end of the war, ending the war conflict seems to be a peace, peace building or peace initiative, but that is only one step. And Dr. Pena asked a very fundamental question about the contradictions embedded in the Ethiopian empire, which I mentioned also before. These are in history, how history has been written, and how it is now being also told again. Contradictions in culture, whose culture is superior and whose culture is at the margin. Contradictions in economic and political aspirations about the question about resource sovereignty, Oromo's right to control resources, and also the question for self-determination in general. These are very fundamental questions, and I would say, unless this can be corrected and addressed, peace will not be possible. And now it won't be very easy to say how can we address this, because well, in 2018 there was a possibility to address such there was a kind of a landmark, a possibility to address those historical contradictions, but the transition was adjusted, the imperial imaginations became consolidated. Abiy started building even the statues of the emperors, renovating the imperial palace, and bringing more not only the narratives but also the in practice. So what I would say is, I can't give a kind of a checklist. If this is done, but there was a possibility, like what happened in 2018, to address those past contradictions and then move forward. And if such, through the struggle, which I also mentioned in one of my the slides, which I said the struggle to end the suffering of our people should continue in order to ensure our people's right to self-determination. And that right to self-determination leads to this addressing these fundamental questions of questions which Benya asked, I think.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Amma sa'aan keenya illee ga'eera garuu namoonni gaaffii afaan ittiin waan kutee fi isaafan carraa kennaa fi isa dhuma Zalaalem xinnoo isheen haa'uusi.
Gaaffiin kiyya warra dubbatan hundumaadhaan achirrattis barreesseen ture. Sorry, I think I should make my question in English because I would like Dr. Trevor to reflect on as well. All the speakers, what you've said in common is the fact that Ethiopia is a colonial empire that invaded the Oromo and, they destroyed the Oromo's self-governance system, the Gada system, and that's how Ethiopia was created and the Oromo are being targeted. So this is what you all are saying in common. However, nobody mentioned about the real solution. If a nation that was governing themselves in a democratic way was invaded by a completely different group of hooligans, the logical solution would be to work towards restoring that independence that existed, independence of Oromia. So why are we shying away from this? Nobody mentioned it, and that's why. And my second question is, I will make it short, is this. Many of you are mentioning self-determination, and it's the choice of the Oromo people. When you say this should come down to the choice of the Oromo people, what are you suggesting about the more than half the Oromo population that died resisting the invasion of Menelik. I'm taking that figure from the book of Marshall Isanvik. Okay, that's fine. And if we do that, accept that self-determination in the way you put it, is Ethiopia prepared to allow that? You know, this is at the heart of all the problems. Ethiopia is not even prepared to respect its own constitution. So as elites, to sum up, what are we shying away from? You know, speaking out and saying, no, we need to restore Oromia's independence. Sorry if I was saying. And that is in line with all international legal instruments, by the way. The UN Charter and all related international legal instruments suggest that independence is basic human rights, it's right erga omnes. So, like we spend much of the time just analyzing the problems, as if these problems have occurred today. No, this is how Ethiopia has been maintained. So why don't you call the spade a spade? Thank you very much.
Gaafiin kee nama tokko duwwaadhaan miti nama hundumaatii fi gaaffii caalaayyuu immoo kan ati laatte yaadama keetii yaadi kun immoo nuti keenya akka beeknu namoota baay'eedhaan hammatamaa waanta ta'eetii fi amma wanni kun portion discussion keenya kan wanni keenya presentation keenya waanta dhumee fi Zalaalam gaaffii odeeffannoo kana discussionii keessatti akka qabamu nu godhe. Kan maal asitti dabarsa?
Dr. Tesfaye, thank you all. Afaan Ingilishidhaan saamaa ture 50 afaan Oromootti jijjiirre hin jaalla. Let me see if we can do that. For those of you who do not understand the Oromo language and have joined us this morning, we prepared the conference in English, hoping that people like you will join us. But I'm not sure how many do we have in our midst today, those that don't understand that fan Oromo, except for Dr. Trevor Truman, who is half Oromo and half English, and also understands the Oromo language. Can I bother you for a minute? Those of you who do not understand the Oromo language, would you please raise your hands? Would you please raise your hands, except for Dr. Trevor Truman? Okay, I don't really see any.
I don't know, at least I can see in the audience at least one person who I believe does not speak up in Oromo.
Okay.
Me.
Yeah, but I understand, you know, clever.
Georgia,
You know, if it's a matter of a couple of people, we can summarize in English. But I think it's appropriate for us to proceed from here because it's a discussion. It's a discussion session. I think it's appropriate for us to proceed in Afan Oromo, and I will summarize, or I will say something in English about the point that people raise, because I want to make sure people are comfortable putting their ideas forward in a language that they're comfortable. Okay, so I hope legally.
I see there are two people who, like me, cannot speak up in Oromo, but if you could kindly give us a brief summary, that would be great. And there are some people in the audience who do not speak English at all, or very little, and it's essential that they are involved.
Well said, thank you. Iddoo kanatti argamtanii mara kanarraa qoda fudhachuu keessaniif baay'ee gammanna. Mareen kuni waa'ee akkuma himame waa'ee abdii nageenya waaraa Oromiyaa keessatti assessing the prospect for a sustainable peace in Oromia. Isa keessaan kuni waan amma mari'atamaa ture kan dhumarratti obboleessa Abdii dhiyeessanii prospects and roadmap to peace in Oromia isa jedhurratti maal mootiin yookiin abdii fi daandii nageenya Oromiyaa jechuu dandeenya natti fakkaata. Isarratti yaada wal jijjiiruudhaaf sa'aatii tokko qabna, deeggarsa qabna. Galatoomaa uummanni Oromoo akkuma beektanii bara dheeraa fi rakkoo keessa jira. Baay'ee lolli irratti gaggeeffamaa jira. Haasa'uu qabnu akkamittiin nagaa waaraa kennaa fi nagaa qofaatu hin ta'in nagaa akka qabu nagaa uummanni keenya keessattis mirga murteeffachuu danda'u isa jedhudha mareen kana irratti kan geessinu. Kun immoo akkuma beektanii mata duree rakkisaa mata duree cimaa namoonni irratti wal dhabuu danda'u. Yaadni adda addaa jiraachuu danda'a. Kanaaf hundumaa kan kabajnu kabajaan wal dhaggeeffachuudhaan akka mari'atamu gaafadha. Maqaa kana qopheesseetiin darbees immoo mata dureen kuni gara fuulduraa akka ilaallu waan darbe ilaalleerra namoonni kakaasaniiru. Dr. Sireen Surmaan akka gaariitti seenaa irraa dhufnee fi waan ammarra jiru walitti konnektii godhee nutti kaaseera. Wal kaanis akkasuma namoonni baay'een Dr. Muhammad, Dr. Asabeen waan amma deemaa jiru tattaaffii nagaa waaraa biyya sana keessatti uumuuf godhamaa ture. Tuttuqaniiru obbo Xahaanis gara fuulduraatti yoo maal akka yoo goone akka achi gahuu dandeenyu yaada isaanii dhiyeessaniiru. Isa kana hundumaa kaaneetu har'a waan ittiin gargar bahuu barbaannu maree haasaa qofaatu hin ta'in tokkoffaa yaada adda addaa warri qabanii sodaa tokko malee akka dubbataniif kabajaa walitti taasifna. Lammaffaa rakkoo isaa diagnoosii gochuu qofaatu hin ta'in yaada furmaataa concrete proposals jechuu baanne yaada furmaataa warri jiru kana hojjetanitti dhimma ba'an fa'aa kaabinees keessatti kan gargar ba'an illee abdanna. Isaa tokko qabna harka keessan kaaftanii daqiiqaa lamaaf yaada keessan dhiyeessitu. Gaaffis yoo ta'e nama deebisutti barbaanna yoo yaaduma ta'e kan fudhanna. Wanti kun waraabamaa jira. Dhumarratti amma dandeenyu goolabuu yaadda. So kanuma jedha isa kanaan osoo hin banin dura for those who do not understand the Oromo language, in this discussion we're looking for diverse voices. We prioritize diverse voices. And then we want to leave this meeting, this conference with some concrete proposals, I would say, not just diagnosis of the problem. And I was asking everyone to be respectful, be comfortable putting out ideas forward, but be respectful to others as well. I guess we have 60 minutes. You may raise your hands and ask your questions or put forward your ideas, your suggestions, your comments. So I'll start with Kiba Eju Tankenadema. iPhone kan jedhamu eenyu laata ciraan jalqabaa eenyu iPhone maqaa keessan dubbattanii yaada keessan dhiyeessuu dandeessu. Daqiiqaa lamatti hin kennine hundumaaf akka wal gahuutti. iPhone nama jedhamtanii Dr. Daniel Dibaabaa harka kaaftee jirtaa fudhachuu dandeessu.
Galatoma, hundumti keessan galatoma. Akka nu baddetti hundumti nu warri barnoota dhiyeessanii mootummaan kun jijjiiramuu akka qabu, Oromiyaan ijaaramuu akka hin qabdu waan irratti walii galan natti fakkaata. Waan self determination deddeebi'ee ka'aa jira. Botaan faas warra karaa nagaa qabsaa'us warra hidhatanii qabsaa'anis dudduuba hiriiruudhaan gargaaruu qabnaa kan jedhu yaada dhiyeessanii. Gaafa taa'ee ilaaluu karaa nagaa mootummaan kun waan jijjiiramus natti hin fakkaatu. Uummata keenya kan dhumaa jiru kana kan mootummaan fixaa jiru qaamonni kaanis fixaa jiranii waan karaa nagaa gaaffiin Oromoo deebi'u natti hin fakkaatu. Sana malee Oromoon disunitiitu jira jechuun tokkummaan wanni tokko kaayyoo tokko qabanne kaayyoo tokko jala dirree sana jalatti immoo unified taanee siistemii ijaarrannee deemuun hin jiru. Yoo amma fakkeenyaaf biyya alaallee jennee kan warra kataatti warri Habashaa dhimma isaaniitiif yookaanis immoo qabsoo isaanii akka isaan tumsanii fi akka Oromoon tumsu gaafa wal bira qabnee ilaallee jennutti baay'ee garaagarummaa guddaa qaba. Humna Oromoo faca'aa jechuudha. Humna Oromoo faca'aadha. Kaayyoo tokkotti warra amanullee anatu caalaadhaan Oromoon iddoo meeqatti wal wanni ta'ee kaan saboteej gochuu irratti yeroo hirmaatu argama. Maal Oromoon maaliif hubachuu dadhabne mootummaa mataa keenyaa ijaarrachuu yoo barbaanne Oromiyaa bilisoomsuu barbaanne fi yuunitiin barbaachisaa akka inni ta'e siistemii ijaarree siistemii jala deemuu barbaachisaa akka inni ta'e maaliif Oromoon wallaale isa kanarratti asirrattis yoo ta'e yoo dubbattan gaarii natti fakkaata. Faca'iinsa Oromoo kun yoom raawwata sana yoom furru ta'ee fi Oromoon amma miliyoona 60 jennaani humna guddaa kan ta'uu danda'udha. Akka biyya Keeniyaa fa'aa biyyoota kaanis jedhamee as keessatti dubbatamaa jira. Garuu Oromoon faca'ee jira jechuudha. Oromoon yoo faca'ee wanni ta'ee fi humna ta'uu danda'a lakkoofsa qabu kanaan poteenshaalii kana harnees gochuu danda'a akkanatti faca'ee isa jedhu. Isa kanarraati beektoonni nuti dubbatanii gaarii natti Oromoon gara tokkotti akka isaan dhufanii fi keessumaa yoo bilisummaan Oromoo yoo gaaffiin Oromoo karaa qabsoo hidhannootiin deebi'a ta'eef maaliif sana jala hin jirre hundumtuu karaa nagaa mootummaan Itoophiyaa isa kamtu wanni ta'ee beeka Oromootiin mirga deebisee beekaa fuuldurattis waan sun ta'uu danda'a kan jedhu.
Okay. Banyak tadi Dr. Daniel. Dr. Daniel gabaabadumatti tokkummaan barbaachisaa bakka barbaannu gahuudhaa fi mootummaan biyya sanas nagaa erga kenneen beeku karaa hundumaa wal deeggaree hojjechuu qabaa kan jedhudha. Obbo Dr. Mul'una. Dr. Mul'una.
I'm sorry, I muted. Thank you. My question is very short, very brief, and I'll put it forward in English. I firstly thank all the panelists for their clear and succinct presentation that will lead our conversation now. My question relates to the presentation of Mr. Ta. The central point of his presentation, I understand, is tidying our own houses. That's very central. That is the crack of the question. But where to start it and who could lead it and how should it be? What is your idea, general idea or suggestion? It's a difficult question, but I think there has to be some concrete ideas as to lead the whole affair. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. You want to take the mic, and if you wish, you can take the mic and respond.
Okay, that's a tough question, really. People should get organized. Without getting organized, you can't have proper leadership. You need leadership, you need organization. Where does it start? we have a long experience. Of course, there are weaknesses as well as strengths. In history of all struggles, this experience is, I think, gone through. There is this centuries old anthropologist who is considered the father of political science and anthropology and the rest of similar disciplines. He says there will be an asabiya, a group of people who take up the torch, embrace the idea, the cause of their people, and lead the way. They die with each other for the cause. They die for each other also, and for the cause as well. How much we produce that kind of elite, history is a weakness. In every generation there are people of that sort, but we don't have sufficient number of them really. Because of our history and our geography and the land-based nature of the colonial structure, the imposition of some cultural values, we produced assimilados also in large numbers. People who are easily persuaded by the ruling elites, adopt their cultures and work against their own people. So partly it is an internal battle. You can't have a clean sheet. In every society there are, developments of this nature. We have to simply tackle, struggle within ourselves and against the occupying for the oppressor as well. There's no other choice. I was personally never satisfied with what we have done. With the level of commitment or determination to deliver on our promises, I'm not satisfied, still not satisfied. And as you know, some colleagues drift to other camps, even to opposite camps. This is in really history, in every people's history, there are people of that sort. We should not lose heart really because of that, and the rest of us should continue building on the successes so far. Sorry, I'm rambling because it is an age-old issue which has been vexing all of us. When we had a long armed resistance in Bali, which started in 1962, how did it end? Do all of us know? The assimilado, that is a Portuguese word of these people who are taken over by the dominant culture and working against their own people. The role that assimilado played was decisive to a point. That is still happening. So we have to examine ourselves and commit. As you know, we have many people, experts who can recommend what needs to be done, but those who do the actual job, who have to do the actual job, are less in number. So we have to overcome this also. That is all I can say at the moment.
Thank you, Buddha Fayata Fada on David Kanafi. And the Naimi Magal Gursitin Sera, the Naimi.
Baay'ee galatoomaa akkam turtan akkam ooltan warra kana qopheessitanii warra hirmaattaniif koomentii tokkoof gaaffii tokkoon qaba. Koomentiin koo not intended to anyone garuu gruupii TV qopheesseef or Oromo human rights yeroo baay'ee dubartoota inclusive hin arginu. Dubartiin Oromoo half population even if our number is in active world very small, to consciously including gochuu yookiin mentally gochuu dubartoota qoda akka fudhatan utuu gootanii yaada gaariidha jedhee yaada. The new generation also mentally ongoing qabsoon keenya transferis ta'uu hin danda'u jedhee yaada kun akka koomantiitti naa fudhatama. Utuu naa fudhatame inni kaan Abiy Ahmed akkanatti fakkaatutti rally around flaggii gochaa jira. Qabsoon Oromoo karaa nagaadhaan isa ta'uu karaa waraanaatiin gaafa cimee ol ba'uutti ka'u he let the dog out. Warra Fannoo, warra Naftanyaa, warra Oromootti terrorize gochuu danda'ani. Kanas afuris ta'anii Oromoo galanii waa'ee sukkunneessaa kana godhan hidhaadhaa baasee gadhiisaa. Ammoo wana isaan terroristii jedhamanii hin leebilii hin godhamne ammas waraananii nama akka waa'ee sukkanneessaa nama kokkotanii gubanii wanta hunda godhanii amma wana terroristii jedhamanii hin leebilii hin godhamne. Supportariin isaanii Finfinnee keessa ta'anii really supportii gochaa jiru. Kana gochuunsa uummanni Oromoo Abiyyiin balaaleffachuuf gaafa ka'u kana nutti gadhiisaa. Abiyyiin balaaleffachuun isaan gara isa kanaan warra kana sukkanne waa'ee cubbuu isaanii akkan haasofne gochisiisaa. Uummanni Oromoo dirqamaa jira akka lesser evilii fudhatee sagalee isaa siistamii kana the whole system tokko kan taane akkan ilaalleef. Yeroo baay'ee hin jedhama oo nama mirga isaa akka fedhiidhaan sii kennuuf barbaade criminalsiitti gadhiisi. Criminalsiin gaafa lubbuu isaa cinqan mirga isaa ofii isaatii sii kenna isa jedhamu isaa gochaa jira. Namoonni governmentii kana balaaleffachaa jiran yeroo ji'a tokko ji'a lama dura har'a oo inni bu'ee faanuu nutti dhufti kan jedhu akka ilaalan dirqamaa jiru. Maaliif the more suffering, the more you suffer, you may settle for less of your right. Isa kana rally around him, he's trying to rally around himself. Ummata Oromoo horiidhaan isa ta'u nama cinquudhaan isa ta'u kana keessa akkamiin baana. Namni tokko barreessee ture the silence of Oromo amma deemaa kan jiru it's deafening silence jedhee barreesseera. Waggaa 5 guutuu Oromoon kana keessa gaafa jiru especially warra free country keessa jiru our silence is really, really deafening. Kanarraa akkamitti bounce backii goona. Oromoon maalutu godhee wanta deemaa jiru. Wanti Abiy gochaa jiru. Faannoon isa ta'uu, naannoo Sumaalee keessa isa ta'uu, wanti kun takkaa terroristiin jedhamne uummata Oromoo irratti garuu waan hin taane gochaa jira. Kana hundumaatti bakka tokkotti ilaalee yoomi akkamitu ta'e maalirraa utuu jalqabame uummanni Oromoonni diiyaasporaa bounce backii godhee kun cubbuudha kan hin balaaleffanne akka guutuutti jedhee systemic change gaafachuu danda'a. Demonstrationidha moo discussionidha moo maaltu walitti Oromoo the first sparkling fire akkamitti kaasuu dandeenya warra diasporaadhaaf gaaffiin koo kana. Gaaffiin kun lama kan goonee nama kakkaasuu dandeenya tokko akkam goonee wanti Abiyyi godhu rally around flag to choose forcing to choose lesser evil kan akkam goonee warkaanii goona galatooma.
Gaarii fayyaa ta'e Amy, warra nageenya fi samaraa godhe Amy raised a couple of points. I should say 3 points. First, she talked about she talked about the lack of women voices within the committee that planned and convened this conference. We take the criticism, and I think we've been trying to some extent to include women. It's a challenge, but this is something that we'll continue to work on. So we promise. The other couple of issues that
Stop touching.
I'm sorry. Oh, sorry. They were one. How can we counter this machination or this Machiavellian method that Dr. Abiy Ahmed is using within the Oromo community, and that is causing some silence within the diaspora Oromo and even back home? So the question was, how can we counter that? How can we raise the awareness of our people and be able to counter that machination that he uses to divide us? I think that summarizes it very shortly. I will give anyone who wants to address this question a couple of minutes. Just let me know if you from among the speakers, from among the presenters. Anybody want to address this question? Okay. All right. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Trevor.
Just to start it off, in terms of women's voices, yes, we do. We want more. And Naomi is very welcome to join us on the organising committee. From a conversation we have tried, and with limited success, to get women aboard. In terms of countering the machinations of Abiy Ahmed, then we just have to do more of what we're doing right now, which is talking within the Oromo diaspora and spreading the message. And there's a lot of negative thinking here. We're wringing our hands and saying how awful everything is, but we are succeeding. We are on the right path. Okay, it's slow and it's frustrating, and some people want to have several questions earlier about complete secession and independence. Why aren't we going for that? Yeah, there are no magic wands. We've got to keep talking to each other and discussing concrete actions, as you say. But just wringing our hands and saying, "Oh, it's awful," I won't do anything. We've got to keep talking to each other and keep using our best brains for this to counter the machinations, as you say, of Abiy Ahmed. There's a lot of comfort in going along with the flow, but as you know, it's only dead fish that go along with the flow all the time. It takes some effort to swim against the current, and this is what we've got to do. And these conversation conferences are part of that process. It's not quick. We just have to keep going on. There's several of us at this conference that have been doing this for 30 years, and you can say we failed, and obviously we have in some respects, but we've got to keep going, otherwise then the options will never be open to us. That's me. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Trevor Truman. Abu Muhammad Awal, Laboring Medicine. Abu Muhammad Awal.
You're muted, Mohammed.
Akam nagaa jirtu fayyaa keessanii akkam Dr. Turmaan akkam jirtu baga walagarree hundutti keessanuu dhugaa dubbachuudhaaf isiniin hayyoota Oromoon qabdu akkasuma hayyuu Oromoo Rabbi badhaase Dr. Turmaan walgahuu kiyyaan hedduu takkaan itti gammadaa namni asirratti naaf feene Dr. Turmaan fi akkasuma Dr. Mul'unaa ulfaadhaa isiniin jedha. Ani gabaabinumatti nama galatoofachuu qabu jira innis maali jennaan Dr. Turmaan dhugaa dubbatuudhaaf nama Oromoodhaaf waan Oromoon hayyoonni Oromoo gugurdaan kafalee olitti nama lammii biyya abbaa ta'a Oromummaa kanaaf jecha gatiin isaan kafalan dhugaa dubbatuudhaaf waan hedduu nama dinqisiisu kanaaf ulfaataa galatoomaa jedha. Kalammataa waa'ee baqataa irratti ani nama baqataa biyya Kaayiroo waggaa 9 ture biyya sanitti achitti affeerreen rakkoo uummata Oromoo bal'inaan itti ibsaatiin hin turre akkirratti waan gargaaruudhaan mala biratti haqataa sun gargaaraatiin hin jiranii baqataa Oromoo sagalee ta'uudhaaf nama tattaaffatu akkasuma Oromoo waliigalaatti rakkoo qabsoo Oromoo keessatti deemaatiin hin jirtu karaan qajeelaa karaa kanaa karaan lolaa karaa sirriitii miti yookaan Oromoon wanni ni barbaadu maali waan jedhu irratti yeroo baay'ee Dr. Turmaan nama waan kana dalagu kanaaf ulfaataa galatoomaa jedhaani gabaabinumatti ani gaafiidhaan namoonni asirra dubbataatiin hin ture gara hojii qaba. Namoonni gaafataatiin hin ture dhaqataatiin hin ture haga takka yoo hedduu dubbachuu qabe haa ta'u ammoo tuyyuu waan hedduu irraa naaf galeetiin hin jira ani gabaabinumatti qabsoon Oromoo rakkoo qabdi rakkoon isiin qabdu maali? Bara 2018 dura afaan tokkochaan mormannee bineensa ofirraa kaafne ergatanii ammoo tuyyuu bineensa afaan Oromoo dubbattuutu dhufee Itoophiyaa irra gadi qubate kana ammoo tuyyuu ammaan ta'an ammoo tuyyuu akkam afaan qawweedhaan jedhamu kanatti hin kaafne jechuun hedduu ulfaataadha. Ani karaa nagarteetiin waan kana sirreessamuu danda'amu karaa asaaraa yoo ta'e qofa warri muka jirus har'aan tana agarteetiin Oromoodhaaf jecha namni mana ofiitti bahee qawwee qabatee daggalatti galee dhiiga jiisa innis saba Oromootiif dhaabbate kama asirra jiru kunis garaa isaatiif jecha mootummaa kana jala galee Oromootu iyyuu Oromoo fixaa jira gabaabinumatti jechaadha. Kanaaf Oromoon hadda waan daqiiqaa lamatti dubbatanii waan Oromoo keessaa bahanii miti hal namni beektu Oromoo agarteetiin akka isaan biyya rabataniif godinaalee Oromiyaa keessatti magaalaa Oromiyaa keessatti dargaggeessi akka biyya rabatu waan mallattee naawii jedhe tokko tuu yaada. Jarri kun guddisa mallattee naawiiti. Maal jedhanii Oromoon baxoorinatti macarrasa ichaalim ግን መቀነስ ይቻላል። Oromoo inni sun hin danda'amu garuu akka jedhu fayyadamu kun maali yeroo ammaa kana dargaggeeyyii uummata agarteetiin hin dabballeen filatanii godinaalee Oromiyaa keessatti facaasanii akka biyyarraa baqatan mallaqa agarteetiin nutu sirraa kafala jedhanii dhoofsina nutu sirraa agarteetiin kafala jedhanii haga deemanii isaan Libiyaa gaanitti haga isaan deemanii Yaman gaanitti ufni kafalanii gaafa isaan achi gaanii maatii isaan irraa
Muhammad dhiifamana agartu Muhammad nu gabaabsii
kanaaf rakkoon Oromoo hedduu bal'aadha. Biyyarraa akka Oromoon baqatu akka Oromoon mirga ofii hin bal'anne haga agarteetiin hin godhamaa jira waan taateef kanaaf tokkoof tokko dhiibbaa itti godhanii akka araaraatti siqanii karaa afaan qawweetiin furmaan dhufaan akka walitti irratti hin mul'atu isin jechuu barbaadetti araaraa qofaan tokko ta'ee Oromoo yoo murmate akka jiru Oromoo warri diiyaaspooraa warri kalee sirriira ba'u guutuun isaa Piippiidhaan jiranii jira. Eenyutu gadi ba'ee murmata. Kanaaf gabaabinumatti gara dhiibbaa gara alaanaa kanatti yoo push godhan irra gaariidha kan jedhu naaf furcaa dhiibbaa.
طيب Muhammad thanked Dr. Trevor Truman for his immense contribution to the Oromo struggle for many, many years. And he also put out his belief that in the struggle we should be focusing on peaceful means of resolving this conflict, and he raised a few points in support of this idea. We'll move on to the next person, and that's about Tawfiq. Tawfiq, not Fakat, but Tawfiq. Tofik Hassan.
Yes, Nagama.
Nagama, Nugababsa, Gafige Sangafata, Aleke Sanigababsa, Fada, Malo.
Yeah, that's it. Si las dos veces que no lo puedo no conocer, si cada vez que está me va a tocar, no solo la canilla, en caso que no toca la caso que canilla, cuando lo mucho un caso de temor, observar su mani, oramos por bro, sani, que tu raconjo, veto ni wan jahan tak posu tu, jaratin asan la magdan bahar, madra bandusa, wanisan. Ortomisa Jesu da próximo gosto son o chale ma su ya ti dia ma juru ka to ne ka o chale ti ya ka mai da ti wa ka to ka ki ta hu ko sa ta ga bi ke ti kan ma ju soro mura kamal ida ka su ta juru mura manne ida ka sa kan ro su ba ta ja bi ya ba ke ma ba tu ma sa le da ti oro da nu ke ba tu ma je lo ko mi ti ti wan kan ne anu oro discriminate bu me ke mu pa do bu ba ka ti ti ka ta ma namni waktu orang itu akan kira-kira dulu sih kan, ini kenapa des, ini soalnya des, jauh des, orang mah di sini seperti dari itu, sama Somalia ini silence sekarang, sudah, kan benar-benar berurusan ini dia seperti itu, dia tidak tahu silence sekarang, aku tahu kan berapa, karena sekarang kita oke, macam dia pusing berapa, dari sekarang pusing mandi sudah, kajian lagi pusing mandi sudah, kan soalnya itu pusing mandi sudah. Even if we are not trying to be, jealous people can anything because they have this over banded. Well, again, the RPG, go Oromo as Oromo, activity, the common, the common diaspora, I did the nobility, why do see here. Which would ever why other than Berlin and Chicago, Oromia support group. Isin diaspora ni ayo dengan betul dengan seorang dia pun. Aku udah sudah. Namni Oromia yang mati. Wagga tiga asal sekarang kira deh. Namni orang tadi orang panti kira kian kira deh. Okan dia mati je. Okan semua aja. Mandek turban ke komisi orang Johnson. Yo orang muda dia mau komisi ni. Pergi 1950, 1990 ada orang sekarang juga sudah. Ada ibar ramai katan. Bahkan kesenjuk Somalia ni. Jauh sih rumah, itu budaan mana aja. Seperti orang human rights worker Instagram ada juga kita kau jalan pakai. Kemudian ini profesornya ini, doktornya ini, please, gabua akan orang mesti bila maju tapi ya kan saya akan berkatakan rumah jadi. Dan wan doktor sebetulnya itu kau sudah. Rentan. Di dalam dosu orang in Oromia budina orang itu ansur jalan ini. Media jadi BBC gue baca bela ini kanan gabah ini margin gak ini saja karena kamu kau usin diaspora orang tu alih nama data ni baru nama data juga nama data tu itu lagi cool Euro busi hey nak media bahani itu semua cool no keston kau please ada berarti Iwan karo tu jetra namni kami siapa kami yo berarti siapa kamu berkata waktu ni di mana Buraga topan aku ulah cuma akka bantan akka nama kesempatan biasa tuan jurubis tuan biu tu ulah berkata jurubis isbuat ajus akka nanti kalau tidak apa
Galatomi, but Tofik identified himself as a refugee who is currently living, I think, around Djibouti. Yes. He appealed to the Oromo diaspora to stop this silence and to speak for the cause of the Oromo refugees. And by the way, he also thanked Dr. Truman for his dedication to the Oromo refugee causes. All right, thank you, Botofik. Botofik Itani. Addenardos ifan kenna dubartoonni baay'ee qabdu as keessa. Addenardos.
Akka mul'atanii. My question is actually a simple one. When we say self-determination, are we all talking about the same thing? Might just should how do you guys see it? And I'm posing this to anybody. Maybe it's a simple question for everyone. I just, want to understand what it means to people and if we're all talking about the same thing. That's all.
Great, good question, Nardos. Can I ask Seba to start and Dr. Mohammed to have after Sabi?
Okay, galatoma gaffii bareedaadha kun self-determination yookaan immoo ofii murteeffachuu jechuun kun hiika baay'ee qaba. Namni baay'een isa akka tokkotti hin hubatu sirrii madasii akka tokkotti hubatama miti. Walakkaan self-determinationis jedhamu kana birmadummaa wajjin waan wal qabsiisu jira yookaan immoo independence fa'aa wajjin wal kan qabsiisu jira. Garuu salphaamatti pepperi tokko illee dhiyoo kana 2023 waa'ee self-determination irratti kan maxxanse jira ture. Self-determination jechuun sabni tokko akkaataa ittiin jiraachuu barbaadu, akkaataa ittiin bulchuu barbaadu akka murteeffatuu fi isa dhumaa yoo hin ta'in kan karaa banudha. Sana jechuun bakka ta'e irra ga'eetii self-determination isaarra yeroo ga'u akkamiin jiraachuu akkamiin of bulchuun barbaada jedhee murteeffata jechuudha. Amma isaa booda dandeettii damee adda addaatti makuu danda'u yookiin birmadummaatti deema jedha yookiin immoo akkaataa biraattiin sirna akka kontekstii biyya Itoophiyaa sana yoo fudhannee sirna federaalizimiidhaan bulaa yoo jedhes self-determination dhumaatu ta'in akka inni hiree isaa murteeffachuu danda'ee gara fuulduraatti waan ittiin buluu barbaadu murteeffatuuf kan qabanudha jechuudha. Jalqaba mirgisuu kennamuufi qaba. Mirgisuu immoo jedhama kennamaa miti qaba. Constitutionally jira, international right irratti jira, international covenant adda addaa jira. Inni kan jedhama dhufu. Maaliin achi geenye jedhama manni guddaan qabsoo adda addaatiinidha. Baay'ee ofii murteeffachuu sanarra qaba. Karaa adda addaatti jira sunis karaa tokkodha jennee yaaduu hin qabnu. Kanaaf ilma salphisumaa fi yookaan gabaabsuudhaa fi self-determination jechuun waan tokkitti tokko miti hiika adda addaatti kennamuu danda'a. Namni as keessa jiru akkamitti akka inni hubataa jiru hin beeku. Garuu ani akkaataa yeroon self-determination jedhu qabsoo barbaachisaa ta'eenii uummanni Oromoo gara fuulduraatti naaf ta'a kan jedhu filachuu akka danda'utti sanarra gahuu qaba. Sicha jedhudha jechuudha. Yeroo baay'eetti seenaa keessatti argineera sana kan jalaa fashale. Pirezidaantii sagantamii tokkorraa self-determination irra gahuu ga'eera. Carraan sun dhufeera ture. Deegee hin ta'in hafe. 2018 irratti carraan self-determination dhufu achi hin geenye garuu possibility isaa sun jira ture. Innis hin ta'in hafe. Kanaaf self-determination jechuun kuni ittuma dhageessaa sanaa booda namni filataa jechuudha. Akkasitti ni hiikan.
Dr. Mohammed yoo jiraatte wanti dabaltee qabatte.
Obbo Jalaalaan Dr. Asaban akka gaarii deebisee waan inni itti dabaluun qabu. Yoo inni itti dabalu uummata akka qofa self-determination taatu birmadummaa taatu yoo humna horan qofa humnaanichi dhabuu danda'a jechuu barbaadee jechuudha.
Okay, fayyaa ta'ii Dr. Mohammed. Okay, afaan Ingiliishiitiin gaafatte deemsa afaan Oromootti. Trevor, you wanted to say something on this?
Yeah, go ahead. There are a few things that people said. It's wonderful to hear from some of the most oppressed people in the refugee situation, Mohammed and Tofik. It's great to hear their voices. And I agree with Mohammed, yes, a peaceful solution would be great, but it's a bit difficult to do that at the moment, without setting out and sacrificing our principles. We have to change the system, and the system is a violent one, which has to be opposed violently as far as I can see. I'd love to be a pacifist, but I can't see how we can manage this without the armed struggle. And Tofik is absolutely right. We need to be more active as a diaspora and supporting people in the refugee situation. The answer to Narodos's question, what is self-determination, in my view, is quite simple. It's the ability to choose the system under which you're governed and who runs that system. And finally, Denebo and Hapte have been saying that surely the solution is simple. It's a question of independence, secession. But I don't think it's as simple as that. That we've got no more right to impose independence on the Oromo people than we have to impose the current system on them. And self-determination means that those people determine how they're governed and who they're governed by. And I think self-determination is the trump card here. That's fine. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Roman. Thank you all for your explanations. I would like to add just what Dr. Mohammed said, regardless of what solution you propose, you have to work for it to achieve it. You have to have the strength. You have to be strong in every way in order to achieve whatever solution you propose. So whether you're proposing independence or democratizing the current state, it's not something that can come just because we wished it. We have to work with it for it. Is what I think everybody is saying. Okay, next, Obama Kadir. Abe? Oh, okay. But Obama
Oduun raanfanne ona jechuu gaarii jeeti self-determination kanarratti yaa akka jedhame waan baay'ee ta'uu danda'a. Biyya jirtu keessa jiraachuu kophaas ta'uus danda'a. Garuu tokkommoo it boils down to people electing their governors, their representatives. Seerri jiraachuu akka sirna Oromoo kadu namoota filatanii kan hojjetuuf tolchuu fi kaasuu jijjiiruus isaas ni dabalataa jechumaa fi kontekstii Itoophiyaatti immoo after 1991 when this was written into the constitution, first in the transitional charter and then constitution, waan irra walakkisanii jechuuf nuti maal godhuu qabna? Ujirra olfachuuf jechuu qabna malee, why do we waste time, defining self-determination? Nati banni gaduma jabeessu barbaadeeti constitution irra jira bara waan irra convince wal goonuu miti. We fought for it. It has been accepted by most people in Ethiopia, and we should ask ourselves, what shall we do to exercise that right, to have our self-government properly? The system refused to allow that. It is in double experience Dr. Trevor did the whole company. Gafati Mallas Bijasan Chature. Wamamne, but President Carter, the former President Carter of the US, he said to me, I was Swami, the Motor Swami. My was the one factor, the second time case, and he will go Mata case and it. You will interact and pay, sooner democracy will interact by is a confront no good. What it taken no Hunduma, the Roman can a full. Generally, akka sirna dimokiraasii jiru, akka filmaataas jiru. Hin fudhanne maaliif aangoo isaaniitu duraa jijjiirama uummanni harki caalu isaanii fidu ta'a. Abaawoon at least Oromiyaa keessatti akka populaar ta'e ni beekan. Kanatti ilaanis hin ta'u je, they are democratic je nuntide. Whatever team nuntide, umarati, yo fair and free election. Filmata nisha fi kajela tahe. Yo isadat to legal. Isa hojjanne. Hujjiro alchin. Inararamna immediately galla jenne kopone. Bultishan mukenne shaggar tapuf. Confidently I thought with Rambeta, Malasni Furataji. Will kill them half to kopone shaggar tapuf to get an one, which is all true. Sorry, Jenny, my friend Malasia saw to it. I guess that Gahejet Chufi, Kadubis in Fudatu, Julian Sanitama be able to choose. TPLF in Fudatani. Why self-determination theory has which is the old funda. Jetchuaya Jetchu Peteti. Itibutate Lamata Marifi will tell the name, Marif United the name of Jetchu Generality. It starts with each one of us. Tokotoko Kenya, what the gave it to. Well, you went to Jarma or to China Jarma, so one of a coward. Akka fakawate akka seera barreeffatetti hojjechuu wal duukaa hiriiruu wal dhaggeeffachuu kanuma miiraakiliin hin jiru ka walirraa dhufu bakka biraatti horiin hin bittu suppermaarkeetii wal dhaggeeffachuu wal duukaa hiriiruu waan lafa kaawwatan kakuu seenan bakka itti cichoomina qabaachuu waan akkanaatu qabsoon poolitikaati silaa kadhima poolitikaatiin tumachuu qabdi garuu warri seeratti buluu didee akka jiruutti deddeebinee babal'ifnee haasa'uun barbaachisu jaraatu fudhannee qabsoon hidhannoo akka dirqii taate beekuudha. Yeroo hedduu wanni nu miidhe tokko maybe social scientists itti yaaduu malanii ummanni cunqursaa jala ture behaviourii akka ummanni keenya qabuu kan numa qaba wal duukaa hiriiruurra waan alagaan jiru fudhata ka ormaati faarsa ka ofiin faarsu psychology of the oppressed waan jedhanii jira kanaaf nu miidhe garuu warritti amane cichoomina agarsiisee tattaafachuudha kana keessaa nu baasuu akka danda'an kanarratti wal jabeessuudha. Obi maalitti jira kanan nu jiran kanan nu qopheessan jechuudha nuti maal godhachaa jirra. Are we doing enough really as individuals, as groups? Yoo jaarmaa qaban jaarmaa san akeeka isaa guutuuf maal godhaa jirra. Warra amma lubbuu isaanii kennee jiru. Kana nagaatti hojjetu kana mogorabaa jira. Hidhannootis maal jiru maal gochaafii jiru. Ormi kanatti nuun jira kanatti nuun jiraarra nuti maal godhuu qabna akka jennu gajjabeessuu barbaadeetti galatoomuu.
Fayyataa bu'amaan kan carraan kan isaaniiti. Daqiiqaa 15 qofaa qabna. Dhiifamuu bu'amaan kan gidduutti nama lamaan tokkoof kenneedha. Kanaaf gabaabsaa deebisuu ta'e gaafatamtan deebisuu isaanii gabaabsaa.
Thank you for just giving the. I think today's conversation is the most successful, according to my opinion. Just 3 consecutive speakers just the Cuban state and unanimously agree on that. So that actually explicated in the state, the Cuban state, this is one factor. The second one, there is unanimous.
Dhiifama bu'amaan qofaan.
Dhagaan jiru.
Okay. Aloy.
Dagama.
Amanda.
Yeah, actually the consecutive speakers of the conversation, right? So, you did
Chuma Devi, Joseph Devi.
Oh, well,
I'm not gonna your mistake.
I want to say after everything was, the speakers tried to explicate the nature of the Indian state, that is colonial empire. This is very wonderful, unanimous agreement. The second is there hasn't been any predictable social and revolutionary change in the system. There are the reforms has been tried different periods of it has ignored. So it is actually a time of the reform the Ethiopian colonial empire. You hear me?
Boamani Chichita, no K, if I want to go to Matosha to Tirama Panjana, to Shaku to Devi. Bisa ansia, bisa dia saya bisa pakai. Oke, bisa buat cara sudah. Mulai membayar dengan fakada.
Gara Tommy, nella Cristianini,
Silakan.
ya, insomma, ani wanuma matumadura isa kana ko gati tama tu mariachisaa jirtu. Dhugaadhaati dhaabni waan kan qopheesse dhaaba siyaasaatti miti. Oromoo sappoortii guruupii keessaayis ta'anii waan Oromoo gargaaru waan ta'urraayi. Wanni isaa bu'uurri isaa bu'uura nagaa dhabuu Oromooti waan ta'urraa warri sagantaa amma dura asirratti dhiyeessani bu'uura isaa nagaa dhabuu Oromoodhaa kana nu himanii turan akka barumsaatti seenaa keessa deebi'anii warri sagantaa dhiyeesse hundinuu. Oromoon nagaa dhabuu kana eegaa beeyne dhugaadhaati. Oromoon kan amma keessa jiru yoo laaltanii mootummaa federaalis ta'ee kan naannoo Oromootis ta'ee kan naannoo Amaaraatis irratti duulaa jiru jechuudha. Dhuguma argaan kana peace building kan jedhu kana peace building kun bari paartinarii barbaada. Nama rakkataa manni irratti gochaa jiru amataarraa muranii ittiin geeran keessaa nagaa eenyu wajjin amma uummachuu akka danda'u dhugumatu paartinarii jira biyya san keessatti. Akkuma isin jettanu Itoophiyaan impaayeraa aadaan isiitiis tokko mo'achuu malee ta'anii yeroo isaanii mariidhaan nagaa fidan hin jiru. Eega Oromoo gargaaru sagantaan akkanaa kun Oromoo nagaa buusuu dhabuu jenne dhugumattuu waan Oromoo nagaa dhoowwe impaayerii ta'uu isaa eega beekame nagaa buusuunis paartinarii barbaada waan ta'eef dhiiroo mata dureen isin nagaa peace building with whom eenyu wajjin nagaa Oromoo ni buufti nu gidduutti nagaa dhabne moo sababa impaayerii itti dhufee darbaani nagaa nu dhoowweetiitu kana wajjin dhiiroo nagaa uumuu dandeenya. Is this right topic waan ta'uu qabatu dhiiba manaa godhaata. Yaa dhugaa kun dhaaba siyaasaatii miti. Mata dureen isaa kun na rakkise jechuun barbaade. Kanaaf jecha paartinariin qabu rakkoon Oromoodhaa jaarmee tokko dhabuu ta'ee dadhabina keenya yoo ta'e sanirratti dhiiroo fokkasii bakka itti dadhabbii qabnuu fi bakka itti nagaa argachuudhaan sababa haala itti nagaa argachuu dandeenyu nu jabeessuu irratti silaa mata dureen biraa filamee gaariidha. There is no partner in entire Ethiopia. Oromoon nagaa buusuu takkaan jibbine bara 150 ol keessa jirra. Osoon sababii rakkoo beekamee fi qoricha biraa barbaadu ta'a. Kanaaf jecha rakkoon impaayiriidha. Rakkoon paartinariin biyya san keessa hin jiru kan nagaa waliin uumnu So kanaaf jecha mata dureen kanaaf bitaan jira. Matuma duree kanaaf gaaffii qabdi.
Qulqulleessa isa mata dureen isaa akkatti jette tun ta'ini abdii nageenya waaraa Oromiyaa assessing the prospects for a sustainable peace in Oromia. Isa keessatti maal challenging jiru isa jedhu irratti kan wanti kuni isa irratti immoo mata dureen gara biraan qooda warra alaa the role of external actors. Isa irratti immoo maal roadmapping abdiin jiru maal fakkaata isa jedhu abdii fi daandii nageenya Oromiyaa gara fuulduraatti kan jedhudha malee akka tammaa geessite garaamiti mata dureen isaalleeti haa ta'u malee namni immoo dhufanii warra yaada isaanii warri dhufanii amma akka tamma jette kanatti wannoo hin qabnu warra wajjin nagaa humna hin qabnu kanaaf loolleetu jabaannee biyya keenya fudhannee sustainable peace in Oromiyaatti warri jiranis kaasuu danda'u asitti rakkoon hin jiru hundumaaf banaa ta'uu biti toppikiin kun fudhatame gara fuulduraatti waan baay'ee konferensii akkasii qopheessuuf deemnaa bidaacha keessan galchinaa kan jedhamaa fi just to summarize for those who do not understand the Oromo, Ibrahim questioned the theme of the conference, which is assessing the prospects for sustainable peace in Oromia. He feels that there are no serious partners to build peace within the Ethiopian context. So it's a waste of time, basically. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that's how I interpreted it. To talk about peace building at this time in Ethiopia would be a waste of time because there is no serious partner to build peace with. That's really how I understood this, how I will summarize this point. Thank you so much. And Obama, now we only have a few more minutes. Obama,
Sagaling kudagama.
Nagama.
Aye, ikama sagaling tu dagamu jadi one manjetu berbade conversation in marina Dubai nama gammachiisa sadee nuyyuu yookiin afran wal dura boodan dubbatan uumaan mootummaa Itoophiyaa maalii ka jedhu the nature of the Ethiopian state akka gaariitti colonial empire ta'uu isaa akka gaariitti lafa kaa'anii mootummaan jijjiiramuun sunsumaan jijjiiramuuni sirnicha akkan jijjiiramin kana irratti akka gaariitti hubatame natti fakkaata. Jijjiirraan hundeedhaan godhamne social and revolutionary transformation hasn't been made. Susuphaadha. Susuphaan bara adda addaa godhamee modernization, socialism and federalism hawayyaan illee dabalate I don't think it is failed. Kasadaffaadha wanni tokkummaa akkamii barbaannaa ka jedhu tokkummaan new type of unity tokkummaa durin qabne uumuudha tokkummaa yoo jedhamu. This is ideological unity, organizational unity and unity of action. Kanaaf kun immoo vision irratti uumamaa. Oromoon maaliif dhama'a, maaliif rakkata, maaliif waliigaluu dadhabe ka jedhu vision, clear vision dhabamuu isaati. Kan hubadhe jechuudhaan marii kanarraa hin gaggabaabsa. Grand strategy illee tuttuqamee jira. Grand national strategy, political military strategy ta'uu isaa manni kun akka gaariitti hubatee jechuudha. Ka oolaan amma hordofu kana jechuudha. Political and at the same time military. So there is no need to search for peaceful resistance again because it is failed and it is hijacked. Qabsoon qeerroo eessaa akka ga'e agarree jirra. Kabira wanni gadi jabaate kana keessatti the colonial empire must be dismantled. The infrastructure, the superstructure of the colonial state has to be dismantled. It cannot be reformed. Self-determination is a very elusive term to define. So I think akkuma mana keessaa jedhame walabummaa, bilisummaa, birmadummaa Oromoon biyya ofii barbaada. Oromiyaan biyya tokko, lama mootummaan birmaduu barbaada. Sadii
uummata bilisoome sammuun isaa walaboome barbaada. Kanarratti yoo xiyyeeffanne I think waan akka alliance building waan jedhu kanallee it is secondary booda dhufa. Kanaafuu mana keenya haa harannu haa xoofnu kareefu obbo Xaahan jedhu kuni maalirraa ka'a? Unity, ideological unity, organizational unity and unity of action. So ka'amma strategy amma lafaa qabnu kanarratti grand political military strategy that is hammered by OLA or Oromo Liberation Army. This is enough. There is no need just to search for any other strategy. We will have to rally behind this strategy. So one Njechu Barbade kana Galatoma fit.
Po Aman, one of our case from sound of the foreign and Kenyan that's I think also to me. I'm running out of time. I think I'm over time. I believe I'm losing for 1 minute, please. Yeah, I'm over time by 7 minutes. So I wanted to do a case on the different chumber bada, you can of Kenya fi, Jenny Marek engaged with the Kenya fi, Obo Aman, what of Kotoko, no gola buya lera. So I want to thank everyone who participated in this conversation. We know the road to peace in Oromia may be very long and challenging, but we have no choice but to have these difficult conversations. This is one of the vital steps I should say we should be we should take. Bring everything to the open, put these ideas on the table, and discuss and come to some kind of common conclusion, I should say. So I think I ask that we commit to continued engagement, all of us. And I know Dr. Truman has announced at the next conference in 3 weeks. So we hope to see you again. Thank you so much. And I'll pass it on to Dr. Bahul Uguma, who is going to make one final remarks or concluding remarks before we finalize this conference or end this conference. Thank you. Dr. Bahul, it's all yours.
Thank you, sir. Really, I'm going to, before I say, give the vote of thanks to everybody. That's what I want to do. One point that I wanted to share that I never had the opportunity to say, and I find it made in my mind useful for us to take it for our future conversation about peace in Ethiopia. There is a common expression that comes up whenever we discuss about how to peacefully resolve conflict between the imperial state and Oromia. And today, again, that expression is used by my good friend, Dr. Draper. There is no need to respond to head with head. I can't agree more for this face value. But I'm deeply worried, repeatedly using this word when we talk about the conflict at hand between Oromia and imperial state of Ethiopia. We are basically giving ammunition to our adversaries to attack us as if we are haters, and they're using that in relentlessly. I doubt that expression as applicability to our case. It is about the behavior of the colonial state or the imperial state to suppress us, to occupy us, which is completely different from the behavior of, I don't care what that behavior is. I really don't care what that actually is, that matter. But it is the behavior of the occupied nation responding to that atrocity that's being committed against them. Calling the two by the same name, hate responding to hate with hate, is something that we really need to revisit and see if it is appropriate expression that we can use it in discussing about how to peacefully resolve the conflict between Oromia and Ethiopia. With that, I want to first start by thanking those people who have been diligently working behind the scene to give us what we seem to have thoroughly enjoyed today. By making the name, the Ubaman, Oli, and it's also Tasfai, Suman, and Asnaga. You guys have done awesome, amazing job, and thank you for that. Let me thank all the participants, not only for showing up, but for sitting through and engaging throughout this conversation. I'd like to thank particularly the honorable speakers, many of them known to almost all over the world, and they're going to be part of our history for their heroism, for what they've sacrificed for our nation, and they have given us an amazing insight into, based on their experience, about the conflict, the issues that they're dealing with in our nation. I'm particularly intrigued, quite frankly, from the experience that I had from Tanzania, something kind of new to me, and not surprisingly at all. And that is the kind of peace that we are dealing with, and I just hope that we will be able to overcome that and peacefully resolve this conflict. Then, of course, I'd like to say again, thank you to your patience, Thank you for attentively listening. Thank you for enriching the conversation. And we hope to see you, but look forward to seeing everybody back again, hopefully not in the distant future. Thank you.